Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands and that he had come from God and was going back to God. Just pause there. I know we're interrupting right in the middle of the flow, but just pause there. So what do we know so far? We know that this is the hour, right? This is the hour. It's all about to go down. The stakes couldn't be higher. It is in this hour, this moment, that the devil makes his final move. Do you see this? He is plotting for the demise of Jesus. His co-conspirator here is Judas, who is scheming this betrayal. And Jesus, who is fully aware that this is his final hour, this moment has arrived. He knows exactly what's going down. He makes a counter move, his final move, if you will. And it is this sacrificial serving of his disciples. Now, what's happening is Satan will make an attempt to drive a wedge between Jesus and his disciples, to destroy this band of brothers from within. But Jesus, in contrast, will deepen and strengthen the bond of love within his disciples, between him and his disciples. John wants us to see that Jesus is in full command of this moment. He knows, verse 1, that his hour has come. He knows that he's about to die. He's about to rise again. He's about to ascend to his Father in glory. He's about to return to all of his former glory and exaltation. This is his moment. He also knows, verse 3, that he has come from God and that he is going back to God. So he knows he's the eternal Son of God who was in the beginning with God in glory and splendor in all eternity past, who was sent by the Father into this world, the incarnate Son, to take on human flesh and dwell amongst us. And it is now his time to return to his Father's side, that he might be enthroned in glory and majesty forever. This is his hour of glory. And thirdly, he knows that the Father has given all things into his hands. Verse 3. This is the language of inheritance. Here, son, I give you all things. What does that leave out? Nothing. All things. What has Jesus inherited at this moment? All things, the universe, everything is his, which means that we know and Jesus knows that he is the most important person in the room. This is his hour of greatest glory. And what does he choose to do? Verse 4. He rose from supper. He laid aside his outer garments, and taking a towel, tied it around his waist. And then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' feet and wiped them with the towel that was wrapped around him. Now, friends, when Jesus takes off his outer garment and takes on a towel, wraps it around his waist, he is donning the traditional dress of a first century slave. Not a servant, a slave. And not just any slave, but the very lowest of slaves. Foot washing was a task that was reserved for the very lowest rank of slaves. Even within slavery, there were ranks of higher slaves and lower slaves. The reason for this, of course, is these are dusty first century roads that are shared not just with foot traffic, but with horses and cows and donkeys. And you know what those animals leave behind, right? Have you ever seen a parade? Yeah. And so they're walking in that manure and all that filth. And the very lowest of the lowest slaves were the ones who had to clean off the feet. In some municipalities in the first century, it was actually illegal to make your slaves clean your feet, to wash your feet, because it was so debasing, even in that culture. So Jesus takes on this role of the lowest of slaves, willingly, humbly, voluntarily, he chooses this task. Now, what's amazing to me is that this task even needs to be performed, right? Here they are. They've come in for this meal. They're all kind of sitting around, and apparently they still have dirty feet. And there's no servants, no slaves around to do this task. And none of the disciples are willing to clean their own feet, much less the feet of anybody else. And so they're sitting around, still dirty. And Jesus sees their dirty feet. He sees the lack of servants and slaves. He sees the fact that no one is willing to step up. And so he chooses to become the slave of all. The slave of all. This is shocking, friends. This is radical. This is scandalous. He's the one person who should not be washing the feet. You see this? And can't you just feel the disciples squirming with discomfort as Jesus kneels down to wash their feet? How would you feel? That's why Peter responds the way he does. Verse 6, he came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, do you wash my feet?" And Jesus answered him, "What I am doing you do not understand now, but afterward you will understand." Peter said to him, "You shall never wash my feet." See, Peter is mortified. "Lord, are you going to wash my feet? This is so inappropriate. If someone's got to do it, it should be one of these jokers, not you. This is demeaning to you. It's humiliating. I won't let you do it. You're not washing my feet." See, something happens in their hearts when Jesus serves like this, when he's humbled like this. The moment Jesus kneels down before them, their stomachs twist, don't they? They're abashed. They're cut down to size in this moment because the humility of Jesus is humbling. The humility of Jesus is humbling. See, what kept the disciples from washing each other's feet, from volunteering for that job? It was pride, wasn't it? It was their pride. "That's not my job. That's gross. That's for the slaves. I'm not doing that." But then when Jesus, in humility, kneels down and washes their feet, it humbles them into the dust. Do you see that? He's the humbling servant. Secondly, we see here that he is the cleansing Redeemer. The cleansing Redeemer. There's more here than meets the eye, right? That's what Jesus tells Peter. Jesus answered him in verse 7, "What I am doing now you do not understand, but afterward you will understand." In other words, there's a dimension to this foot washing that Peter will not understand until later. Until after Jesus' hour has unfolded, until after Jesus goes to the cross. See, what Peter cannot yet understand is that this cleansing is a picture. It's a foreshadowing of the true and greater cleansing that is coming on the cross. That's why Jesus in this conversation subtly shifts from physical foot washing to spiritual cleansing. Watch what he does here. Verse 8, Peter said to him, "You shall never wash my feet." Jesus answered him, "If I do not wash you, you have no share with me." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head." Jesus said to him, "The one who is bathed does not need to wash except for his feet, but is completely clean. And you are clean, but not every one of you." For he knew who was to betray him, and that is why he said, "Not all of you are clean." Don't you just love Peter? I love this guy. He's got foot and mouth disease, right? 1 minute, "You'll never wash my feet." The next one, "But my whole body, give me a bath," you know? Now, what changes Peter's mind? What triggers this move? It's Jesus' statement, isn't it? "If I do not wash you, you have no share with me." Jesus is saying, unless I cleanse you, Peter, you can't be with me. Now, the Jewish people knew about cleanliness. Much of the Old Testament is about becoming and remaining clean so you can enter into the presence of God. Jesus is saying, the only way you can be in my presence is if I clean you. If I clean you. And you need not just an outward cleansing, you need an inward cleansing.